That's what we're aiming for. And so if we could just go around the circle, this week's homework was to nail the profile for your ideal client, who you're writing for. So we could share who your ideal client is, and if you need some help around understanding that, then let's talk about that. And then the next thing, of course, Julie's nodding, I love it. Good, that's what we're here to work on. Yes. So the next thing was that we were going to come up with 3 ideas for blog topics or content topics, and we would be writing on those hopefully in the next week or 2. So if you could share those ideas. Typically in these sessions, we're doing a brainstorming, so everybody would be welcome to add their ideas to your contribution. And if it makes you uncomfortable to have other people give you feedback, you can just say, you know, I'm not looking for feedback right now, but I'll share what I'm working on. So hopefully, if other people come in, we'll add them to the circle, but it's nice to have a little bit more time too to work on it together. So who wants to go first? Julie, yay! Volunteer right up. Thank you. Jonathan, are we recording? Yes. All right.
This has been an ongoing process, I guess. I've had a really hard time coming up with who, like really defining who my ideal client is, just because I'm still kind of getting that. And then also content has been a little bit of a challenge. I'm not the artistic type to just come up with stuff like this on the fly. So I'm like, oh. So do you want me just to share what I came up with, or how does this work?
Sure, yeah. Whatever.
Okay, so my audience, what I've listed so far is people who aren't closing, and I want to add something else to this. It's come up in my, just recently, to expand to not only sales, but relationships as well. And Jonathan, I have a spot on an ESPN radio show in November. One of my girlfriends has an ESPN show, and she asked me to be on to talk about relationships. Awesome. So excited. Yeah. So, all right. So, but for the sales audience, people who aren't closing or meeting their goals, people who sell face for a living, they rely on sales for their income, mostly women, I think, ages 35 to 65-ish, entrepreneurs, business owners, direct sales reps, small business owners, etc., making or with a goal to make $250 a year or more. People who are awkward, feel manipulative, pushy, cringe at the concept of selling, want to expand and grow in their personal and professional life with new skills, open to new things, people who may not know their benefits, people who may know their unique qualities about them, why people would want to work with them over somebody else, not clear about who their audience is, think that everyone is their ideal client. Their frustrations, they don't know what they're doing wrong, their low closing ratio, not able to connect with prospects and clients well, not meeting their goals. Do I keep going?
No, keep going. Sorry,
okay.
I'm writing.
Okay. What they want to know is fast, easy, usable ways to increase their sales and connect with people. And also to create more leads and clients, prospects, depending what they're doing. Let's see, what else they care about. Improving themselves personally and professionally, open to new ideas and new concepts, open to constructive criticism and useful information. I wasn't able to answer all these. Let's see, what keeps them up at night? This is a really difficult one, but I said losing sales and deals, not achieving their goals, want to work smarter, not harder, no idea why things aren't working. Mm-hmm. And then what I've started doing, I guess over the past 6 weeks, is reaching out like on I just did it in my newsletter, but now I've decided, okay, I'm going to start it in my blog, link it in my newsletter, link the blog in my newsletter and on my Facebook. I'll figure out LinkedIn at some stage. And then also I've got 4 meetup groups. So there as well. Those are sales and networking meetup groups. Mm-hmm. So like tips about face reading that will help them in their business, like this last, then workshops and webinars and stuff like that. But the tip was like the public and personal side of the face. So understanding that exists, and then like the different features and the meanings that would apply either if their product or service was business related or personal related, so they would know what side of the face to look at for certain things. Okay. And I'm just,
Yeah.
That's where I am. Is that enough?
Yeah. I mean, I read your email newsletter this week where you had the line of the
Yes, thank you. Okay.
I think one of the first things that you need to do for your ideal client is you need to say, this is not tarot card reading, this is not palm reading, this is actual science. Because as soon as I hear face reading, I instantly think, oh, woo-woo.
And that's why I usually say I'm a physiognomist, and I'm getting both. It's like people say, don't just say face reader. And other people say, no, it needs to be more professional or scientific. So
I just, every time I hear the word face reading, I instantly go to the dark side, if you like. Which
the woo-woo, yeah. Okay.
So I think that will help the ideal client, because I don't think you want the woo-woo people. You want the sales professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your face reading is kind of how you get there, but where you could connect with them is where they want to end up. Right? So maybe you could write a profile of who your client aspires to be. They aspire to be confident, and they aspire to have the skills to sell reliably, that they can count on themselves. So flipping a lot of those statements over and seeing where they want to end up in this journey, because people typically don't really care how you get them there. They just want to get to that destination. And when you talk about the lack of confidence, to me, that's a point of connection emotionally. If you can talk to them, what would it feel to be more confident in your sales? Like all those strategy session questions that you probably have. Dig into how they would feel if they had this skill.
Okay.
I think you have a lot of information on your ideal client. It's maybe even specifying one or two people that would really resonate with what you're saying and really writing for them so you can define it with those people.
Okay.
And it could be real people that you actually know, which is a really great strategy.
Yeah.
If I wrote a blog post for Jonathan, it'd be a no-brainer because I really know him. So maybe somebody that you've really helped to write for them.
Don't tell everybody everything now.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing you might just before we finish, Julie, is you might want to put on your website who is not your ideal client. I've often, we talk about this fellow Marcus Sheridan a lot in his River Pools and Spas. One of his most read blogs is why fiberglass pools might not be the right choice for you.
Really?
So you might want to seriously write a blog about and that way when people read that, they went, oh, no, that's me. I am totally that person. And it helps them solidify the desire to talk to you because you try and dismiss all the people that you don't think you can help. That could be a really powerful blog.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll share that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Awesome. I love it.
So did you come up with 3 ideas that you want to further develop yet?
What did I say?
I love your face.
There are a lot, and it's hard to just dump them at this point because there's so much happening right now. So I need to take a little more time and really put them on paper, and I didn't. I kind of got the other stuff done, and I didn't get that piece. So
that's fine. Yeah.
Next time.
Okay. We'll be doing a little bit of assigning homework today in preparation for next week, and basically it's going to be developing one of those ideas.
Okay.
And you can start with something that you've already got if you want and work on developing it on the other platforms as well.
What I had come up with was like the top mistakes in networking or top mistakes that people make when meeting new people at first. Like, the whole concept of the personality profile, because the first 7 seconds or so are like is where you make your first impression, where people think, all right, do I want to continue the conversation or not? Mm-hmm. So mistakes that people make there and what not to do, or just, I don't know if I should do just mistakes and what to do about it, or just the mistakes and how it impacts them. So that was one.
Right. I like that. They're both good ideas. Mistakes and how it impacts them is kind of neat because then it makes you want to read another post or listen to a podcast and keeps you curious.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So we had Jessica, you showed up early. Did you want to share? Oh, you have it here. Did you want to share in the chat box what topics and ideal client profile you've been working on? Queenie, welcome. Hi. Nice to see you. Glad you could make it. Awesome. And then, okay, so Joe from the chamber here says that they have no speaker or video and they're totally on board and ready to roll with their ideal clients. So when we get to Joe's turn, we will read that. Thank you, Joe. And Jessica says, I struggled to come up with ideal client profile, but I did come up with several FAQ ideas. So that's awesome, Jessica, to do those FAQs. And I'd like to dig into your ideal client profile a little bit more. Just not quite sure how to do it on video today.
Well, maybe I can chip in because I've spent some time there already. I mean, they sell real estate in the agricultural arable Fraser Valley, not just Fraser Valley, but across the whole of the province. And they were saying to me that a lot of people who are selling a blueberry farm or a cranberry farm or acreage already know them because they've been around a long time. So that they've kind of capped out the visibility in the community. But what they're saying is there's a lot of people who own acreage that don't know them, that don't realize that, you know, if you own over an acre, you can, and you have a piece of the land that you create a crop which gives a return within 10 years, you can get a tax deduction. So those kind of people, you know, who own like a Shaughnessy mansion in Vancouver could be buying land out in Chilliwack or something and suddenly getting a whole new world. Plus there's other people that have family acreage that they don't realize the value of modern farming.
Fantastic.
So, if anything, we talked about social media might be a way of them educating a whole new audience who either are about to buy land or own land, but are not necessarily farmers. So that's what Greg and I talked about as being like an ideal go-to place for future business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could build a whole platform around that. So it's not just a question, Jessica, of doing one blog post or one social media post. It's an entire campaign. So if we could, in this course, work on some blogs that you can then parcel up into really great social media shares. You guys, we have a guest speaker booked. He's going to come and talk about skills on camera. So if anyone has confidence or other issues that they'd like to deal with on camera, I have an amazing video producer coming to talk to you as well pretty soon. So yeah, so Jessica, maybe this week you could work on really nailing down those first 3 blog topics and start writing on one of them. I'll talk to you more about the homework. That would be awesome.
Maybe one topic, Jessica, might just be paying too much property tax and need a break. Yeah. Here's a perfect solution. You know, plant fir trees that are going to take 10 years to grow and you can get, you know, a percentage back or something like that.
Yeah.
And go into the detail of how the ALR stuff works. That can really help. And that would be very readable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
With the right headline.
And people don't know, and everybody has this rumor in their head that if you plant trees that you'll get that tax write-off, but nobody really knows the ins and outs, and that would be amazing. Yeah. It's very
llamas. You can farm llamas, right? You can do all sorts of weird things to get that goat cheap.
Awesome. Okay, so Jessica, that's a fantastic idea. You feel like you've got what you need to go for next week? Good stuff. Okay. Awesome. So now we've got Jamie, you were here early. Did you want to go?
Sure.
Awesome.
So I work in the healthcare, so unfortunately our ideal customers are not as healthy as they would like to be, but there's also ones that are just health conscious and want to make sure that they live a green life. They don't want to deal with pharmaceuticals or traditional medical doctors. Here, a lot of our patients that we see are already gone through the medical doctor system and they're fed up. They're at their wits' end. So our ideal client is that, and some don't understand what we can actually do for them. So I have a few topics that I would like to go over. One is telling their story. I have built quite a relationship with lots of our patients that come in. I deal with them all the time. So I have talked to a few of them, and I'm building it as I go and asking if I can take a picture of them. can you send me a little write-up of what you want? Or even I did an interview with one because she's not very good at writing her own things, so I wrote that up. Another lady actually sent me hers, so how she met the doctors, what brought her here. And for instance, like the one is heavy metals, so that's what we do chelation for, and this is what her side effects were, or her thoughts were, and now she's feeling this way. Another one was a cancer patient, and what made the decision of her to come to Dr. Balkin and to do the IV therapy, and how she felt it really helped her with the side effects of chemotherapy and all of that. Another one is, so that's the educate, so that's one of the E's. Another one is we talked about offering something of value. We have a program that shows like special diets, so whether it's a blood type diet or an antifungal diet. So I would like to do something in a write-up of that.
Awesome.
And then my other third one was to draw in questions from social media, because right now I'm just on Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working with. And if we could draw in some questions, and then there's the FAQ, right?
Awesome. Awesome ideas. And I love how a lot of that doesn't rely on you chasing your doctors down and getting them to write, because that sounded like it was a challenge. You just get around them with that.
And that's what I'm trying to do, is to try to bring it right now. It's me that is the kind of the phase, not me, but it's my thoughts and my feelings of the clients, and just trying to get what they all like. So I have to kind of put it in a way where I have to be careful, because I can't write a story about IV therapy. All I can really write about is the benefits and how they're doing, correct?
Absolutely. You can document it. You can be the storyteller.
I just had a light bulb moment.
Oh, I love those.
A good client of ours in Prince Albert, her name is Jacqueline Thea, and Lindsay knows her very well. She had double mastectomy breast cancer 4 or 5 years ago, and did not choose to have any radiation or chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
She totally changed her diet, her regime, and went 100% IV with nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 years on, even the latest PET scan, she is completely clear.
Yeah, this one lady.
Page called I Beat Cancer. And she is so on fire about helping other people. What we could do is we could set up an interview maybe on Zoom with Phil and her, and Phil could just ask her because she doesn't mind coming out of it, and she's not your patient. And maybe that's, but she's also very able to explain what she was driving from Prince Albert to Saskatoon, which is like 2 hours each way, just for an IV. And she paid for it too. It wasn't even like she could get any medical help around this. She's a complete devotee. So what do you think, Lindsay?
If you don't have somebody that you can dig up in your business, we clearly have some connections for you.
Yeah. I think I can dig up quite a few people from here. Like I say, I build quite a rapport with people, and so I'm not afraid. I stand behind everything that we do, so I'm not afraid to put myself out there and say, hey, can you tell me about it? Why else do you come here, right? And this one lady, she chose a lot of untraditional ways, and she actually had very little side effects to the chemo that lots of people have, and she strongly believes it's the IV therapy, it's the diets, it's everything that the doctors here had offered her. So she wrote quite a nice write-up. I'll show it when I see you.
I love it. I love it. So next week, we're going to talk a lot more about the format of telling a story. And we're really focusing on writing blogs, but it works equally for video and other avenues. But when you're fleshing that out this week, that'd be really great to have maybe one piece that you could then polish up after next week.
I had a question about the format, and I'm kind of stuck on that. Should I do it like a picture on the side, and their little write-up there? And do you do that through like PowerPoint? Like, how do you guys do that, for one? Or should it be, because I've asked them to send me a few pictures of themselves as well, where maybe we could do a very brief slideshow and a little write-up. I just don't know the format that would be best for telling their story.
Awesome. So that's definitely what we work on in this course. And I can even do, because I think there's quite a few people who are coming in with new WordPress websites or new skills around this. So I'm happy to do a session just for people who really want to get into the back end of their website and figure out where to put things and how to take things up and what to do there. So that could just be like a side session for those of you who need it and want it. Yay, seeing some nodding there. That's good. And then, Jamie, another thing is once you have some of these stories and you have those great relationships with people, I'd love to see some of them coming out as short videos. And if we can get your story structure, it can work as a script for your video. This is another thing you can do with your content. And then you can do these lovely little shares like that. It'd be fun. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah, I was going to show you, but I have a selfie stick for you too, Jamie, when I come visit. They're in my trunk, but
I can't wait. I want to do a video.
Jessica got hers on Friday, and then Joe got hers this week too. So as quick as I can get them out to people, I'm delivering them.
Wahoo.
Perfect.
So fun. Awesome. Okay, so Jamie, do you feel like you're ready for moving forward, taking those next steps?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We'll try it anyway.
If you have questions as you go, you guys, all of you, just pop them up in the group and we can have that group chat going lots and lots. That'd be great. Awesome. Okay, Susan, are you here?
Me, Susan?
Yeah, you, Susan. Susan Alford.
Okay, so you want to know my ideal client.
Ideal client and topics that you are going to tackle.
Okay, so my ideal client is a professional woman who is probably between the ages of 35 and 65. They are post-secondary educated, or they're working. They might not, I should say, they are probably post-secondary educated, and they may or may not be working. Some of them may have chosen to be home with their children full-time for a while, but they want something else. Like they're probably thinking about going back to work, or they're feeling like, okay, they've probably finished having their children. I've started to see a pattern with my clients where once their youngest hits around the age 2, they're going, okay, what's next for me now? Like I'm actually sleeping most nights and my body's no longer a milk machine. What's in this? What's next for me? So it's, my people usually are looking for some kind of either career transition. They're not loving what they're doing right now. They're feeling a lot of guilt about not loving what they're doing because they're feeling like things look good. Like things look good.
Oh, Susan,
I don't know if I lost my screen, but I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, a phone call started coming in. Sorry. My dog's finished at the groomers.
Yay! Get 2 things done at once.
That's where I go after this and pick them up.
That's awesome.
Household income is probably over $200,000 a year. Like they can afford a one-on-one coach, and actually, I've got a lot written about my ideal client. Like I was writing. The other thing I wrote down is my ideal audience is really tired. They're so busy doing everything right that they've lost themselves in the daily grind. They are driven. They're motivated. They're juggling too much, and they're exhausted, and they're overwhelmed. So they've just got so much going on. They don't even have room to think about what's next. So, which leads me to a lot of my blog topics. So far have really been about trying to inspire people to understand that there is more, that they do have a choice, that they can choose something else. And that's where I've been living a lot actually with my blog topics. And I haven't spent a lot of time with what people are struggling with every day, which is how do I get everything done? How do I get work-life balance? There's a lot of how-tos that people just don't think it's possible to do things any other way.
Yeah.
So I would like to explore some of those topics. But it's also hard because my clients are hiding, right? They don't want to tell anybody that they don't love their lives. They would be embarrassed to tell you that. But the blog topics could be around having an unsatisfying career, showing people that they have a choice. A lot of my clients have secret life projects. Like they might have a job that pays the bills, but there's something else they'd really like to be doing that they've never told anybody.
Whew, that stuff is hot. Yes.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the hot spots right there where they're hiding something and they don't want to share. I mean, that's like hitting the controversy. There's a hashtag that one woman has come up with called the imperfect boss, and people are sharing their failure moments when they're not perfect and they look perfect. And it's really strong. So I would say that's hitting a nerve.
And then the how-to stuff is around productivity, because busy moms need to do more with less time.
Okay, awesome.
You know nothing about this, I'm sure.
No, nothing at all. I love how you told me I was a busy mom, a fellow busy mom. I'm like, yes, you nailed it. But I have my own hacks, and so I'm really keen to see what you've got. Like, I really strongly believe that women need to hire out in their house and the personal assistants and all of that. And it's so hard to overcome the guilt of having someone else clean your house. Who cares? So,
and I was at a leadership conference yesterday, all females speaking about various aspects of leadership. And one person was talking about that to-do list. And I've said this to my husband before. It's like, just because I know what's on the to-do list doesn't mean I need to do everything that's on this to-do list. There's another topic.
Totally. I love it. Yeah. Because you can do so much more with your time. So I really, I love that you want to build out those solid pieces. They're kind of credibility builders. I think when somebody gets to your site, they see that you're more than just another coach, more than just inspiration. They see that you have something they can learn from you. So I really like that. And then I really think that the emotional hot point that we just talked about, that nerve where people are living a secret life, they're hit. I think you could create discussion there, because this is the kind of thing that people don't want to hide, but it's scary to go first. So maybe some leadership in there or some crowdsourcing somehow. We can talk about that. What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah. It's finding the right people. You've got the smarts and the skills, and you can help people like straight out the gate. I know that. It's just them coming out of hiding and finding them and sometimes the real networking meetings are exactly how you make those core connections. But I do think leading video topics, because you have such a beautiful studio office, and just people sort of getting that feel of when they find out that your husband's a doctor and you've got grown kids and you've done all these things, and yet you're still finding time to take him to Italy, for his 50th and still make meals. It's like, I want her life.
I want to do that.
Right, but yet I don't want people to go, that's not real. Like, oh, she's married to a doctor, she can do anything. Like, there's this book, Gretchen Rubin wrote, The Happiness Project. And I gave this book to my sister and said, I love this book. And she's like, oh, she lived in New York. I'm sure she could, of course she's happy. And I'm like, there's this. Okay, so you're not my ideal client, sister.
You need to move to New York, sister.
Just living in a tiny apartment on the top floor of some apartment building doesn't mean she's happy.
No.
So it's the judgment. I'm afraid of the judgment, and I also, so there's a bit of that.
Okay, awesome. So maybe there's some courage needed in your marketing to share some vulnerable points.
There's definitely some courage needed.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I'll do it with you.
Thank you. Okay. That sounds great.
I'll share something that I wouldn't normally share, but it's a private group. I'm going to an event next week with a lady called Liana, who Lindsay knows. And I bought my wife what's called a spotlight, where she gets to work one-on-one with Liana around image. It's called image therapy, but it's a lot more cerebral than it is fashion. And I watched Debbie have the session with her yesterday, and she got very tearful because everybody just thinks my wife is just like very, very lucky, has a lot of things that most people don't have. And in some ways she does, but in other ways, the stress of her trying to keep up with me is pretty high. And what Liana was saying to you yesterday, it's very hard for you to actually say, I need help, when you have so much good stuff going on around you. It doesn't mean to say all the good stuff makes it right or makes it easy. It just means you have different issues than other people. And even sort of, I'm just thinking out loud, but even just saying, people look at me and think, oh yeah, he must make hundreds of thousands and they live in a nice place and their kids are awesome in sport. She must have it all. Well, you know what? crap still happens, and it's the same issues. It's like, what's that horrible phrase? Same shit, different day. We all have different shit, if you excuse the phrase, but maybe that's being as blunt as that and just acknowledging where you're at, but still saying, my husband works 50 hours a day, and when he comes back, he's toast, and I want some me time, and I don't get it. And these kind of things, when you put it into the context of finding balance, just being real.
So, I mean, it's one of my many inspirations for becoming this kind of coach. There's this news story that was in the news years ago, long before I became a coach, about a woman who lived in a very wealthy area of Calgary, and she drove her kids to school, she drove home, she drove into her garage, she closed the door, she left the car running. That was it, right? And I'm thinking, everything on the outside, like, I don't know this woman, but everything on the outside probably looked good. And she probably, I mean, that's obviously extreme, but there are so many people living beautiful, perfect lives who could be happier.
Great blog post right there. Tell that story and connect what you just connected about how it connects to your work. And start with that. And then maybe start a movement, like a little movement. Talk to your friends, talk to other people, grab a hashtag, start telling stories. Yeah, Queenie's got it.
And there's also a big difference between what I call new money and old money. In England, a lot of people inherited wealth just because of family. That doesn't really happen anymore. And I'm pretty sure that everything that you two have got, you've worked damn hard to get to. And there's no reason to be embarrassed for that.
Yeah.
And which brings me to another point. I wondered at one point if independently wealthy people would be in my target audience. Like, okay, now I have all this money, what do I do? Yeah. But I haven't seen that yet. Like, it's people who really want to be they really want to make something of themselves because they worked it, right? Like, they're driving, they want some kind of success and recognition because of them, not because anyone gave it to them.
Yeah.
So they're very self-driven.
There's a woman I spend some time with online. She's a professor. She was on tenure track, and then she decided to open an online business, and she quit her job last year. And she loved her job, and now she makes $30,000 or more every month. She makes so much money on these membership programs and consulting, and she just posted about how empty she feels.
Yeah,
and how she doesn't love it. And she said, am I the only one? And it really got this huge discussion going. And people were saying things like, you know what, this is why I love you, because you're not afraid to be honest and tell it like it is. And I totally feel you. Other people were like, yeah, I love what I do. I'm really happy. But it was a great discussion. And I don't think it took anything away from her.
So if I could, one more idea I had, like, around starting to tell those stories, but even in pictures. Now, I was thinking the hashtag might be balanced, or trying to get closer to my brand, like the balance equation or something. But anyway, it's worth discussing in terms of creating, some kind of hashtag that's quicker, that helps people connect with that.
Mm-hmm. I'd say a hashtag, you have to be careful not to be too polished, I think. If you do something like this, it's about vulnerability. So the hashtag that I mentioned before, the imperfect boss. So something like hashtag, I don't know, but like things about not being perfect on the inside, or, perfect on the outside, but not on the inside, or you have to be really careful not to cross that line, but still to let people be vulnerable. It's very similar to the Me Too campaign that just stormed all of social media. People are willing to share. They want to share. Yeah, we could do some thinking about it. Definitely this week. Yeah. Awesome. That's exciting. Okay, so our homework at the end of this session will be to just try to start writing and start developing one idea. So maybe that's one that you want to pick first, because it's up to you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Do you feel like you have something to go on for the next few days?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Great. And then I think we've been through everyone but Mission Chamber of Commerce, and they've introduced themselves today in the comments. So I'm just going to scroll up a little bit, and I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read it to you. Joe from the Chamber of Commerce in Mission said they're not on video today. They have a list of questions. Joe, are you here? I'm hoping I'm speaking to you, that you haven't stepped away from your desk right now. Oh, good, she's here. So the questions they have are, why do I need to join the Chamber of Commerce? How do I get the word out about my business? How do I reach my clients? How can the Chamber help my business? Okay, so, and then their ideas are 5 reasons why you need to join your local Chamber of Commerce. Is social media your business friend or business foe? That's a very fun one. And 10 ways to network more efficiently. Ooh, I smell a tie-in to someone else there. Okay, so Joe, I think these are great. They're very direct. I'd love to see them told with stories from real people in your chamber. So if you're going to talk about 5 reasons you need to join your local Chamber of Commerce, I would challenge you to interview 5 Chamber of Commerce clients and put their stories in a bit of a roundup for that post. Then each one of those stories can make its own social media share. And if you talk the story through with the clients, you can also make those into your videos. So I would challenge you to think about how to make this way more of a storytelling thing instead of just a very boring, dry blog post, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I love the social media business friend or foe because it's talking about something that your Chamber of Commerce is working on right now. So you can share your own stories about what you're learning, what you're going through, what you're trying, and then you can get people on board to support you that way. It's kind of like sharing your vulnerability a little bit as a Chamber of Commerce. You don't know everything, and maybe asking people for their best tips, or somehow involving your readership would be great. And then again, that goes out on social media to get amplified. And 10 ways to network more efficiently. So I love that. Julie's doing a lot of stuff on networking. Maybe that's someone you want to reach out to in the Facebook group. See if there's a good connection there. She has a great infographic, I hear, or a PDF.
The other thing, Joe, that you could do is when you go on that WhatsApp Wednesday and you go around about sort of with chamber members and stuff, is stop and write a story about, let's just say, Ken at Lanka Jewelry, the difference that he's made for the city and how much the chamber has benefited him, or some of the new members like me or Tap to Drain Plumbing, who have seen real tangible benefits out of new clients and new learning. Like when you guys did that whole thing recently about writing to your local MP about the small business taxes in BC or federally, and it sounds like already they've changed. They're going from 10.5 to 10 to 9 in the next 2 years, rather than going like crazy up. So that's a difference that the chamber makes. And when you can tangibly have people say, this made a difference to me and this is what I got out of it, that's a no-brainer why people wouldn't join at that point. So I'd find strong advocates and interview them and turn them into maybe video, and then turn it into a blog, and then you get a whole bunch of social shares to go with it.
And it can go either way. You can write the video, you can write the blog post first and use that as your script for the video, which is really handy. Some people just do an impromptu video and you can make that into your blog post. You can even start by writing 3 or 4 or 5 shares on social media. And once you've felt those out and you've seen what people said, your reactions, then you can turn that into a blog. So we're always thinking about that being a full circle, and you can start anywhere. Also, Joe, the social media post. So is social media a friend or foe? Another way to approach that would, again, be telling stories from your chamber members about how your chamber members are using social media. That could be a really fun story, too.
Especially Tap to Drain.
Yes, they are awesome.
Alumni of this course from last time.
Awesome. Okay, I hope that gives you some ideas. Joe, do you feel like you can move forward for this week and put something together? You guys, this week, the homework will be to put something together, but it does not have to be polished or perfect. It's just to get those wheels rolling. So go as far as you can, but next week we'll talk a lot more about structure. All right. I did not get to you yet, Queenie. I assumed I had because I talked to you quite a bit during the week, but no, I haven't. So welcome. And
hello. I just got in. Sorry about that.
So Queenie's playing hooky from the conference she's supposed to be at.
Oh, Oh no, that's okay. This is much more fun anyway.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Forgiven.
Yes, this is fun to play through it once in a while, but apparently I'm not the only one so far. I've been getting a lot of feedback on that one, but yeah. I have a question for Susan. Earlier she said that there are a lot of people who are not happy. I think it'd be interesting to just ask them a bunch of questions in a blog or something, to try and get them to define what happiness is. I mean, I know you read Gretchen Rubin's book. I mean, I've been to her conference at Harvard University. It is absolutely amazing, but not many people understand what happiness is. I mean, I was recently approached by a parent, and she's like, "How can you be happy? You're moving from place to place. You're living out of a suitcase. How can you be happy?" And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel happy. We have bumps along the way, and difficulties with visa and stuff like that, and we have to manage our finances. And there are hiccups here and there. We do get upset as well, but generally we're happy. We feel safe and whole as a family. So I think we really need to wake people up, and that might help your sister. My sister is the same category, so I understand. She's like, I'm happy, I got a stable job, but she looks miserable all the time, and she's single, and she's not young anymore, and she thinks she's happy. So I think we need to get them to really think about how they define happiness and having a fulfilled life. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, how can we even start looking for it? So that's something that I find a lot of people don't have yet. So that was the feedback that I had for you. But back to my ideal client. I think my ideal client, they are mostly in Asia. They are bound by the Asian culture and stereotypes. And they know that, any kind of real change is not going to happen in this generation. So they want their children to be more globalized in a way that, they want them to be more adaptable, have a more progressive mindset and stuff like that. So all of the people who are my clients have this thing, this vision. And they've told me before, they said that, we like what you do, we like what you are, you're so brave, you put yourself out there. We can never do that. But if you can teach me how to teach my children to do that, that's all I want. So I think in the large scheme of things, that's ultimately what they want for their children. But on the day-to-day, they struggle with tantrums and discipline, and because parenting is a very cultural thing. A lot of our culture seeps into our parenting practices. So I was telling you the other day that a parent told me that it's not okay to hit another person unless it's your own child. So it's really hard to get them to have globalized children if the parents don't have a globalized mindset. So I have been doing a lot of podcasts because I do take in questions from people, and I podcast it every Monday on Ask Me a Question Monday. I also write blog posts, and I'm recently doing Facebook Live answering those questions, and they keep on coming up. It's the same thing over and over again. It's about tantrums, about emotional intelligence or the lack of it. It's about discipline and, how to help the children thrive. Because I think the recent spike in child suicide rates in Asia has really caused them to think really hard about it. And when I was at the conference yesterday, which I did not skip, one of the fellow delegates came up to me and they said that, why is it that in Asia, you guys are so worried about resilience and stuff like that? You guys score the highest in the PISA test. They're all the top places are taken up by Asians. I say, yeah, but the rest of us who are not out there, we are busy throwing ourselves, out of buildings because we just can't cope with it. So, the approach that we're using only works for a very, very specific kind of child, and it does not benefit everybody else. Actually, it's kind of not so good for everybody else. So these are a few traits that I would want to look into, and I was trying to repurpose the stuff that I already have and to get it transcribed and put it into an ebook of some sort. I feel like instead of doing it in a tutorial kind of way, and I'm going to educate you. I think it would be better, or it'd be something new to go at it from a different approach, where I just bring in stories, real stories of people, and talk about it. Because when I was looking through all my podcasts around these themes, I found that they're not really in depth, because I try to keep it short. Everybody's into bite size everything. It's not really in depth. There's not a lot of substance in there, but there are lots of real concerns and real struggles that parents share. And so I think that would be a slightly different approach that I can take. I don't know. That's the best I can come up with right now.
I love that. I love taking a different angle on it. I think that's really smart. You hit on something controversial. Have you thought about writing directly on the topic of child suicides, the rise of child suicides in Asia?
It's a very, very fine line, because people don't want to talk about it. And a good example would be my boy's dad. He doesn't want to talk about it, and even when they were really close to showing a lot of signs of anxiety, he denies a lot of it. And they think that, that won't happen to me. I mean, they are afraid of it, but they won't say it. It's a little bit like, Susan's case, where, they have all these struggles, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to tell people about it. They don't want people to know that they screwed up as parents. Nobody wants anybody to know that, because we have enough guilt as it is. Yeah. So if I cover a story like that, it will have to be, I have to be very, very careful. I have to tread very carefully. Yeah. And I could probably do that, but I won't be teaching. I'll just be asking a lot of provocative questions to get them to wake up and to think about their assumptions. That's the best that I can do, I think. Yeah. And then just leave it out there and see, what happens. I can try.
I think even beyond asking provocative questions, I think I would directly state that this is a problem, because you're a media figure. It may be social media, but you are a content producer, as opposed to just on the level of everyone else who's reading. So it's okay to touch that line a little bit, usually, because they're not looking at you as their neighbor and their friend. They're looking at you as a public person. Yeah. So yeah, you don't want people sending you death threats, but you might share an article in the news. You might.
But I don't want people to go, oh, that's not me, and then just turn off. I want them to, because a lot of times when they will ask you, what are some of the signs and symptoms? What do I look out for? And then they'll quickly discredit it. Oh, my child is a happy child. Just laughing a while ago. But I mean, the rest of the time, what the child does, nobody knows. Yeah. So, and I think because we're so busy, there's so many things out there on social media that we're very quick to discredit stuff. And I don't want them to do that. I want them to really think about it. So I think it will, I don't know, I find that the blog posts that I resonate with are those that, ask questions that get me to think, rather than tell me, you need to do this, you need to go do this right now. I don't, so,
but so it's, what if you were to find an article or a statistic that explains this in black and white? So you're just discussing it. It's just an opinion, and you could go into it in a really long form blog on your website. It could be a long thing, and then on social media you can keep it lighter and more engaging, but it all connects to this long thing. The reason being, those people might be saying on the outside, oh yeah, that's not me, but inside they're wondering, oh my gosh, I wonder if that is me. I'm feeling really guilty. I don't know where to turn. And then you have this beautiful, big, in-depth discussion of it that nobody needs to know they're reading, but you have it there.
Yeah. Okay.
As a possibility. I know you have a million ideas.
Yeah. The other thing, I follow a fellow called Gary Vaynerchuk a lot. And
I do too.
Sunday Rant was
he's always ranting.
Long form posts on Facebook really work. Up to 2,000 words on a Facebook post. He's getting way better engagement than short video clips, even, because people read his stuff, and then there's a call. So just do a long form written post on Facebook.
Yeah, but make sure you anchor it on your blog, and you can put it out on your podcast as well, and you can do a video as well. It doesn't mean limit it to that one that disappears on Facebook.
Okay.
Julie had a question?
Yeah, I want to ask you, Jonathan, with Gary's post, his 2,000 word post, are there any graphics with it too, or is it just text?
He does. If you just look at he's at Gary V. If you look at, he posts like 200 times a day, so it's hard to sort of give you an exact.
Wow.
And quite often he'll post in groups. He'll actually post maybe 2 or 3 or 4 posts at the same time. So when you're scrolling, suddenly his feed is like filling your whole phone because it's Gary, 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 rather than just individual ones, which is a very different way of doing it if you've got enough content.
Mm-hmm.
But quite often it'll just start with a picture and he'll just go long and then no video at all. And you get these, he was just saying he's got a lot of good readership from that.
Okay.
And another person who's doing the same thing, so Derek Halpern, he has a website called socialtriggers.com and a podcast. So he's a big digital marketer. He's doing the same thing. He's been doing it for about a month and a half, really long posts on Facebook, telling a story. He says, I walked into a coffee shop the other day. I noticed 2 people were talking about, and they're just engaging personal comments. And he wasn't active on Facebook before, and now suddenly he's doing this all the time. So you just, once you put all that effort into writing a post on social, it doesn't just have to be once. Let's work on reusing it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As our friend says, don't change your act, change your audience.
Yes, Lisa says that. Yeah. But I know that Derek has been, because I've been part of his inner circle for a bit there, but I know that he has a strategy. He says something like, ask questions on Facebook and then get a discussion going and then compile all your findings and put it in a blog post or something like that sort. Because sometimes when you write a blog post, it may not have all the content that you think that your readers want. So he said to generate as much discussion as possible on Facebook because it's easy for people to comment. And then from there, you know what are the areas that they're not sure of, and then your blog post can address all those things. I think that's what.
And if you know, there's other content marketers who do that. They do their research. Mark Schaefer is another one. They do their research by discussing it on Facebook. But if you notice, Derek Halpern, his posts are stories of everyday life. So he's getting at a point, but they're very conversational. So there's a trick to that. It's not just saying, hey guys, would you please give me your opinions on, you really tell a story.
Yeah.
Good. If you want to put something up in our group and have a discussion and maybe figure out if that resonates with this group first before putting it up as well. That's another way to use this group.
Yeah, we can try that.
Okay.
This is a very powerful group.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's really exciting to work with everybody's story.
I'm feeling intimidated. There's a little guy in the middle here.
You're not in the middle on my screen. You're just off to the side.
Oh, yeah, at the bottom of my screen.
Actually, I haven't done this before. I want to do a screenshot of everybody. So give me your best smile. I loved it. One time.
Should I be holding up my beer, my non-alcoholic beer?
I wonder if you were drinking Heineken or something.
No, it's not
Parenting
alcoholic.
expert.
Everybody is crucifying me for that. They're like, for heaven's sake, get a proper beer. I'm like, no.
That's so fun.
Oh, come on. How do you do a screen?
Joseph is also smiling.
Screenshot. Oh,
Print screen.
sorry?
Command Shift 3.
Print screen? Do you have a Mac or?
I got it. Okay, big smiles. Awesome. Thank you, Joe. I loved your smile. And Jessica, yours is great.
That is awesome. We'll have to copy and paste your photos. So that is super fun. So I would like to give you guys another assignment for next week. But before we do that, does anybody have feedback for another group member? Did anything someone said make you think of a new idea or resonate with you? Would you like to share that? Julie.
Had to find my mute button. Okay, so Queenie, I don't know if you saw what I put in the chat, but I think a lot of it has to do because I think Asians are very proud and they've got really high standards, and possibly guilt and stuff like that kind of comes into play about not wanting to admit what's really going on or not wanting to face it. It's like, oh, I can't even be asked to look in that direction, or they don't want to talk about it publicly. So maybe something to that extent or that direction. And then,
So you want me to tell them that they're proud?
no, just talk about the fact that, you know, it's a very real thing that pride, it's you know, it's validate that.
Yeah.
Validation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how well that would come across, or if that would be a good thing to even like discuss, because it's like, okay, here's the elephant in the room. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, with us, we have like a long scroll of taboo subjects. I mean, I don't subject myself to that, but we do have an unwritten long scroll. And I was just sharing with Lindsay the other day that I did the Me Too post on my Facebook, and out of the 9 people who commented or liked or responded, I mean, only 2 of them are Asians, and they're not even Asians living in Asia. They're Asians living abroad. And so everybody, I know it happens most in Asia, where women are looked at with almost little to no regard. But nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, I can go on and on and on and rant about it and educate all about it, but if they're not ready to deal with it, it's going to be a waste of my time. I mean, I can put something out there just so that I can get it off my chest.
Right. You have the permission to speak and say what you want, and be prepared for whatever consequences or replies that you get too. And, you know, it's going to resonate with some and not with others. But like, I mean, I saw the Me Too and I thought, do I comment and post it or not? I mean, for me, that's kind of a personal thing, and I didn't choose to.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to go on social media. They don't need to own that. Sorry.
Yeah. That's a tough
I mean, I just copy and paste the post. Some people will actually tell the whole story, which I
No, my understanding was if it happened to you that you copy and paste it. And I was like, they don't need to know that about me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's a really important thing. There can be boundaries. Even when you're a public figure, you're designing who that public persona is. And
that's right.
That choice.
That's right. And people check to see what you post to see if they even want to be friends with you or interact with you.
Yeah. The way I approach the persona is, because I also lead a single moms group that I love. And I
love that too.
Thank you, Queenie. I believe in leadership in our roles, because we're stepping up and we're standing out, and other people are looking at what we're doing. And I think that even, Queenie, with you, if you say that Asians know that it's not going to change in this generation, what is it going to take to change it for the next generation? It's going to take leadership. So sometimes figuring out, okay, these are stories that maybe we don't want to tell, but just because no Asians commented on your Me Too post doesn't mean none of them resonated with it. Not every statistic is reported just by likes and interactions. So it doesn't have to be every post, but I think that's an important part of who you are, and somehow people do already resonate with it. They want to learn from you about your adventures and your different definition of happiness. And these are the vulnerable things that are hard to share, but even with an Asian audience, just because they're not responding doesn't mean they won't want to hear more from you, and they might hire you privately. Just something to hear.
Well,
you know, I wanted to mention one more thing. I'm going to have to hop off soon because I've got another call too. But one of the things I wanted to mention to you, Queenie, is that, you know, just the idea of, you know, being too proud to admit or to look. I mean, they don't have to tell you, but actually looking at that as a possible issue for them and dealing with it could prevent them from losing your child. It's like, are you going to be proud, or are you going to deal with it?
That's a good point.
Or are you going to, you know, feel too guilty or feel too judged and criticized and worry about how it's affecting you personally, versus allowing your child to commit suicide and not dealing with the elephant in the room and the task at hand? I mean, this is your kid. You're worried about more your pride and you know, that kind of thing, or are you worried about keeping your child alive?
And you can step lightly around it. You can say things like, in the Asian community, it isn't common for us to discuss this stuff. So it's hard to have this conversation, but it's alarming to see it, right? Like there can be some diplomacy in it.
Yeah. Well, I did share a very, very private instance with my, the clients that were already in my group, because they know me already. And, I told them that, childhood anxiety happens to so many of our children. Some of us choose not to see it. Some of us, we are okay with it, but we don't want to tell people that we are causing it, even though most times it is, we are the cause of it. And I was telling them how my children went into childhood anxiety, a really bad case of it. And I'm not the type who's afraid of showing my vulnerability. It's just really hard when you don't get feedback. And agents are really rubbish at giving feedback. At the end of the talk, you won't get agents coming to the front and saying, oh, I really enjoyed. You won't get that. You just see them all get up and walk out of the room. That's very typical. So if I don't get any feedback, I can't provide them with the clarification that they need before they go and draw their own conclusions. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they don't.
You are getting feedback, though. If you're getting feedback in your small group.
Yes. That's all that I'm getting, because these people are the ones who have already committed to, yes, I want my children to be more globalized and I'm willing to make some changes. But if I put it out on social media, I don't know who it's getting to. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit tricky. I don't mind if it's a face-to-face group and I can still read people's. I'm really good with non-verbal cues. I'm dyslexic, by the way, but when it comes to non-verbal cues, I'm a walking lie detector. And I can read people's facial expression and their voice. And I don't mind that. But if it's on social media, you don't have that. So I feel like I have to hold back sometimes because I don't get any feedback at all. And like, again, I say agents are really bad at giving feedback. You're taught, if you don't like it, just keep it to yourself. So in that area, I'm totally not very Asian. My mom hates me for that, but yeah.
See, you got your mom. You can run things past her. She's like, no.
I know. Yeah.
I can see that it's a difficult one, and it's definitely little step by little step.
Yeah, I'm trying to rock the boat, just not too much. Just a little bit at a time. Yeah, but somebody has to do it. So
I love that. And I think that's the thing that will draw those right people too. I mean, that's what you probably know, that the more you talk about that.
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Okay, well, looking forward to working with you, and I will put this week's homework up in the group. It's just to flesh something out, flesh one of these ideas out, either writing it, finding an old piece of content and pulling it up and getting it ready to repurpose. And it doesn't have to be writing a blog post. It could be starting to talk about it on social media. Just let's start fleshing these ideas out. Next week, we'll talk about structuring a blog post. So it's very technical, but it's also really how to structure a story.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for staying to the bitter end, Jessica, Queenie, and Susan. I appreciate that. Everybody else is saying thank you and goodbye, so that's wonderful. Bye, Jessica, for coming.
Virtual coffee tomorrow at 10 for everything other than this.
Oh, and Jonathan's got some exciting guests coming up on that virtual coffee. Care to share?
Oh my gosh.
We didn't talk about that.
Which one? The Instagram one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I confirmed it yesterday. So
exciting.
November 7. November 7 on a Tuesday. It's going to be 4 o'clock and not 2 o'clock Pacific. But I got an hour with a lady called Jen Herman, and she was just speaking at Disney yesterday about how to utilize the top 5. She is literally the world's leading blogger on Instagram around the world for the last 4 years, as voted by Social Media Examiner. She's a friend of mine to a degree. And I managed to bag an hour of hers for you guys. And it's November 7th, 4 p.m. and not 2 p.m. That week on the Tuesday. But
don't miss that.
Do not miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys. Have a great week. Hope to see you in the group. See you next week. Bye.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.